Morning, everyone. I'd like to call the Executive Committee meeting to order for the County of Bruce for this August the 2nd. We welcome everyone that's watching us through live stream. And the first thing on the agenda, of course, is I need to remind everyone it's our own responsibility to close any pecuniary interest we may have on today's agenda. And the next item is a closed meeting, that the council move into a closed meeting pursuant to section 239. What?
Sorry, Mr. Warden. Sorry, Mr. Warden. This item will ask for you to entertain recessing executive prior to 1 o'clock, but the closed session, the solicitor will be here for 1 p.m. today.
So we're going down to item B, minutes of approval. We're not even doing that. Okay.
Yeah.
4A. Oh, wow. Okay, we're on to 4A, information item Q2 annual business plan update attached. Who's walking us through this? Is that you, Kelly?
Through you, Mr. Warden, I'll begin, and then each director will do their particular area. I am pleased to be able to report to committee that the carry forward projects that were reported in Q1, we have remaining a total of 15 open projects, 3 of which we are recommending they be deferred into 2019 due to operational restrictions. Overall, the first half of the year is progressing quite well, and the eScribe project will be launched for your consideration in December of 2008 to coincide with the new term of council. The ecosystems project that has been it's largely completed. It continues to just have some what I would call housekeeping tidy up items to complete for both the museum and the long-term care facilities. And the balance for the human services area, they will be completed through the construction program. In terms of the 2018 annual business plans, where we are is, again, to remind committee, we had a total of 55 projects. The area of particular interest from a organization-wide perspective has been the Bruce Works initiative, the lean processing, and of course the communication strategy. The communication strategy was presented to you in July, and you supported it and approved its implementation at the July 12th committee day. The next step with that is there will be a special cross-functional team assigned to start the implementation, beginning with the first recommendation. The balance of the programs that the directors will take you through are everything is well on course. We are experiencing some operational struggles with the centralized scheduling office. Those are to be expected, and we continue to work through it, but for transparency, the 2018 plan at this point is in jeopardy, and the team are doing everything they can to get to a place of stability as quickly as possible. So with that, I will move, if you wish, Mr. Warden, into the CAO's update, or I can entertain any questions if there are any. Okay. I just, I'll do mine, and then if you wish, we'll pass to the Director of Corporate Services for the financial statement update. The projects for the CAO, sorry, I have to just, I printed off everything except it. Just give me 1 minute. My apologies. So the the key performance indicators for the Office of the CAO, the only one that can be reported is the total staff connected to the department. You will recall that we experienced the reorganization in January, so that is why the total staff went from 34 to 36. The three main initiatives for the Office of the CAO, I'll begin with the mental wellness program. The launch in May of the second annual program went well. We had redefined the program to include primarily three areas: the building mindfulness, the approach to mental wellness, and then finally the wellness visits. Our focus this year was really on building resilience in terms of your overall mental health. We completed the organization-wide Guarding Minds employee survey again for the second year. The feedback was very reassuring. The organization has told us that we did make significant enhancements in the area of involvement and influence, workload management, and balance. Overall, we still have one area of concern, which is surrounding the organizational culture. The senior management team and I reviewed the results of that survey and have concluded that we'll continue the focus on those three areas, and ideally a year from now you'll see the remaining psychosocial aspect of organizational culture will also shift. The final area of concern in the area of the Guarding Minds survey was the level of employee engagement. It was, or responses, that was lower than what it had been the prior year, and it's difficult to interpret silence. So for the 2019 year, as we lead up to that, we will be really enhancing and encouraging staff to participate as it's a vital tool for us to be able to bring forward to you the recommendations. The second initiative for the strategic plan, the RFP, it will get drafted for your consideration and ultimately for release in November, with a goal to start that program in 2019. The third initiative was the Bruce Works project. It is progressing very, very well. You received the presentation from the cross-functional team in July, and there's nothing that I can add to that presentation. They did a really terrific job of demonstrating the power of that program. The lean transformation continues. As of the end of the end of June, we had a total cohort of 5 completed. We completed the 6th cohort in July. Overall, the results, you are starting to see them across the organization, in particular for visibility and the work being more visible across the organization. And the final project, again, was the communication strategy, which was provided to you and is complete. So through that, Mr. Warden, I can answer any questions.
Any questions for Kelly? Okay, let's move on then. Betty Ann, Corporate Services.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. If I may, we will just return to the second quarter 2018 financial statement review that was circulated. We did advance this report, so I apologize for the lateness as it was sent out earlier this week. So Hopefully, you've had an opportunity to read it, and just a couple of things to highlight. Certainly, the forecasted year-end surplus, and this is based on our finance team and the analyst reviewing with the directors and managers what they anticipate what our year-end will look like at December 31st based on current actuals, budget to actual, trending previous years' actuals, and any other information that may have been provided. So at this point, we're forecasting a year-end surplus of $660,000, and keep in mind that that $660,000 includes the transfer of the projected savings in utility costs, our integrated energy project. So we are at this point projecting $413,000 from the from the 4 facilities that participated in that project, being our long-term care facilities, this administration center, and the museum and cultural center. So that has been applied to finance that project. As well, $200,000 from the $200,000 from the June report related to the insurance surplus. You'll recall we did the RFP for our 2018 insurance program after the budget was set, and there was a savings of just over $200,000, and that has been earmarked for reserves as well. So that $660,000 accounts for those 2 transfers. The other item worthy of identifying is additional utility savings. Then you can see throughout the report where certainly a large portion of that in our housing division. But at this point, you recall in 2017, we transferred all savings, not just the savings of the participating facilities, but at this point, that is not being recommended. It could be revisited later in the year if there was an interest in that. Otherwise, highlighting the Mother Nature and winter control, the deficit of $226,000 in transportation and environmental services, which we know was the impact of our late spring. Making up for it this summer. And then in our Human Services division, the rental income deficit of $178,000, but that department's still projecting a surplus because of the utility costs, the substantial surplus there of $332,000. We continue to monitor the provincial offenses revenue, and there is a potential, but at based on last year's trending, but we are seeing some upwards trending, and are hopeful that that deficit will be mitigated by year end. You recall we did reduce the budget in 2018 to address that as well. And I'd be happy to answer any questions, or I'm sure any of our directors related to their specific portfolios.
Any questions or concerns to share with Betty Ann? Boy, you're off easy again today, Betty Ann. Quiet group. Quiet group today, so far. Moving on.
So an update on the corporate services business plan, and just that includes our facilities division, our information technology division, and the finance division. We have 4 KPIs, the new insurance claims. Nothing new to report on that. Pleased that there's nothing new to report on that. And again, just a reflection of the full-time CEMC, Community Emergency Management Coordinator, and that job responsibility, including the supporting of risk management initiatives to continue to minimize the corporate exposure. The website visits, we have comparisons from 2017 to 2018, and I will circulate later the website visits, providing you with the details in that. Apologize, I didn't have it here for you. And I think it's just worthy to repeat again that we are assuming that the consumer is able to get to the content quicker. So even though the numbers may seem to not reflect, it's just they're being able to get to them easier and get the information that they want, and that's more effective, and it's certainly a positive experience for our viewers. And you will see when I circulate the details that, as expected, the Adventure Passport is bursting with activity in the Q2, as did the Bruce County Trails site and Explore the Bruce. So certainly those sites that attract our visitors, particularly in the summer seasons. The county site has declined, which we would expect, and according to prior year trends, as the need for the winter road conditions information isn't needed after Q1, and then we see that spike in traffic on our county website in those winter months. The service desk support ticket usage, you can see that we're almost reached our 2017 budget, and certainly our 2018, and this is just a reflection, as we reported previously, that we're accounting for all of the work in the service desk, and by utilizing it, we're able to report more completely, gain insights into the trends, so that we know that IT is organized to deliver valued services. And this year is the first full year of tracking all of those requests, and certainly it's resulting in a higher number of tickets, but also improved service and awareness by our clients and our internal clients particularly. The average number of invoice processed weekly tells you our departments are busy spending. The finance team continues to encourage electronic fund transfers, which has certainly been welcomed by the vendors, and a further step to modernizing our processes. When we move into our major initiatives, you'll recall we have three. The first, modernizing the operating and capital budget. And while we have delayed the implementation of this project for till 2019, certainly the initiative and the excitement and enthusiasm remains high to introduce that, and certainly we've taken advantage of the 2000 as we build the 2019 templates, to making sure that we still are modernizing where possible. The implementation of Bruce Works, up until the summer session, when we spoke of Bruce Works, it meant shifting to our new collaborative technologies, and now our IT manager introduced a new acronym, TriATRAFTA. We'll have to come out, but what it really means is the right information at the right time from anywhere. And all Bruce County staff have been provisioned in Office 365 and email migrated to Exchange Online. Any mobile users have also been reconfigured to work with that new mobile device management solution. And we're already experiencing improvements in individual and team productivity that was showcased to Council at the summer session just at the completion of Q2. The RFP for SharePoint and Skype for Business was issued in Q2, and the evaluation committee were scheduled to complete that review and award the project in Q3. Headsets for Skype communication standards were set, and samples were taken to the county office and identified for staff to choose their preference. So it won't be unusual for you to walk by individual offices and see them having headsets, and eventually their telephone handsets will be removed. The Lean initiative, examining the accounts payable process, has been a very exciting one that I've been very involved in, and you'll recall our workshop that was held with our consultants, Alpine Consulting, 8 Lean team members. That was the end of May. The workshop defined our current condition and the target condition, which is an accounts payable process that is more consistent, shorter, faster, and easier for all, and with clear accountabilities. The accounts payable lean process improvement team has introduced a number of improvements, which we called Just Do It's, and we're introducing a number of other experiments to make the accounts payable process as we said, faster, easier, cheaper, as we lead up to the 2019 budget cycle. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
David?
Yes, Betty Ann, do we have the same level of access for Skype all around the county? Sometimes Skype can be good, sometimes bad, sometimes delays in speech and those kinds of things. So are all our offices, locations set up for good Skype reception?
That has been one of the initiatives the ITS division over the last year, is to upgrade and to get faster, quicker, and I believe one of, and including our library branches. So we can provide specific information, but at this point that has been an initiative, and to remove those pockets and to ensure that we have fast speeds. That's exactly what we don't want to have, is the missed calls and the dropping of calls. So
The SWIFT initiative, when it gets here, will eliminate those worries.
I will certainly enhance the product that we have.
Yeah. Any other questions at this time of Betty Ann on the Lean or the Bruce Works or? Okay, well, your report was so well presented that we understand it explicitly and there's no questions. I think we're on to let's go down here. Down here. Human Services, folks, and welcome, Mary Ann.
Thank you very much. And so I'm really pleased to deliver the Q2 results for the Human Resources Department. As you can see, I need to work a little bit better on my projections when I'm coming out, so I would focus your attention on where we were with the 2017 actuals versus where we are with the 2018 year-to-date Q2 results. So our turnover rate is much lower, and which is good. That's a good sign. So we're able to retain more employees than we have previously. Our full-time headcount is on target, is comparable to the previous year, and as is our permanent headcount, full-time and part-time. Our OSHA recordables are trending about higher than where we'd like to see them. We're really spending a lot of time and effort to make sure that we are continuing to offer a safe and healthy workplace. The good news is, of those incidents that have occurred, there only was one major one, in that it's a musculoskeletal issue that continues to develop, but for the most part, all of those have been one-day incidents with some transitional work back into the workplace. Our trend is on track as far as 2.3 as compared to other municipal comparators. We're about 50% less than where our municipal comparators are when we look at that. Our sick time pay continues to be trending a little on the high side, which is indicative of us having a number of very ill employees at this time. So those are, as you know, all medically managed, and we'll continue to do that. And WSIB claims overall are down, which is good news. And so hopefully by the end of the year, when we see all of our hours in, we'll see that OSHA recordable number. So as far as our 2018 major initiatives, we continue to update our health and safety and HR policies. So our health and safety policies were completed earlier this year. And as you know, it shouldn't actually say draft policy, because the HR committee received the workplace harassment update in Q2, and it was accepted in Q3. The HR policies are continuing to be updated as a result of the Fair Workplaces, Better Jobs Act, and they were reviewed in Q2, and that further review with the senior management team and will continue off on Q3. We're continuing to enhance the employee journey, so we continue to engage in recruitment, branding, outreach, including job fairs, to include applicant attraction. We're also updating our new employee orientation program, so that starts in Q3, in September specifically, and so we're looking forward to that. We, as the CAO has already spoken to, did measure the employment engagement to advance our mentally healthy workplace in May. And the Introduce Reward Explorers program, we are going to be putting that on hold because of the number of other initiatives that are happening in 2018. The payroll review does continue on, and as we continue to lean that process, and we're really happy that we're able to now look at a key initiative that you also heard about in the earlier report from the corporate services about transferring the connecting the VI time cards to vacation requests, and that wasn't budgeted for, but certainly we have the money within our budget to deliver on that in Q3, and we're looking forward to that enhancement. And we're continuing to work with the centralized scheduling group to help them with the new scheduling processes. As far as job evaluation goes, we're continuing to maintain our new job evaluation program for the non-union group, and we're delivering on the long-term care job evaluation specific to Unifor, and we're looking for completion of that in Q4. Building capacity refers to a lot of the initiatives that are happening under health and safety, and we should have the lockout takeout program by the end of the year. Our health and safety tracking system, which is commonly referred to as SMAT, was scheduled to go live in Q3, and in fact I can report has gone live. And we're continuing on our ergonomic and cognitive assessments. We have completed 16 to date that have been signed off, completed, and we're on track with that. This is a project that started in late 2017 and will continue on to the end of 2019 with 92 different assessments being delivered through that process. Thank you very much.
Questions of Mary Ann and Human Resources? Ann, where you been?
Lotto. What's that again? Lotto. I'm thinking of buying a ticket, but.
Lockout, takeout.
Lockout, takeout. What? Sorry.
Through you, Gordon. The lockout takeout program is to identify our energy sources within our various buildings.
I didn't hear what you said.
The lockout takeout program is to identify the energy sources within our various buildings in the county. So we've been going through based on risk assessment as which ones needed to be done first, and we're down to the last remaining buildings now. So an RFQ was issued for that, which is a bidding process in July, and that project will be completed. So basically it goes through and identifies to your panel, your electrical panel, what is connected to what, so that if you have a contractor in, or if employees also are dealing with the electrical boxes, they know what's connected directly to what.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions at this time? Thanks, Mary Ann, for your Q2 report. So who's next? Human Services? What? Health Services. Sorry about that. Hey, pardon, excuse me. Good morning, sir. Just take it away.
Thank you, Warden. It's my pleasure and privilege to present the Q2 report for the Department of Health Services for your review. The indicators that we have are within norm. You'll remember that we've combined the homes and paramedic services in a new set of key performance indicators that we've started this year. With regards to key performance processes specific to the homes, I would draw to your attention that on the recent resident worsening bladder control issues. There is a typo, or there's been some coding errors, which I believe that this number is potentially lower. On number, or the area called potentially inappropriate use of antipsychotics, there is a typo error, and that is 19% for Bruce Lee Haven and not 29%. The successes in these areas, Warden, are related to cooperation between staff and physicians and pharmacists as they've worked to improve pain services and decrease the areas where the use of antipsychotics may be too liberal. With regards to our business initiatives of this year with centralized scheduling, since the production of this document, centralized scheduling has taken over the scheduling of the PSWs for Bruce Lee Haven. With this task being transferred to centralized scheduling, currently all of the nursing departments have their scheduling or their schedules being developed through the centralized scheduling office. Paramedic schedules, or paramedic services schedules, are also being prepared on a regular basis by the centralized schedule office. There are 6 smaller departments which are outstanding, 3 in each home, which yet to be scheduled centrally. Call-outs for replacement staff for paramedic services and gateway services currently occur inside or at the centralized scheduling office. This does not at this time include the larger home, which is Bruce Lee Haven. There are a number of processes, policies, and contractual smoothings that need to be done in order to align these 3 previously very distinct cultures. With regards to the alignment of the organization, a document is being developed so that this can be done in Q3. It will essentially see homes, departments meet so that they can tour each other's facility and discuss each other's processes, so we can harvest from that any opportunities for further purchasing, service continuity, or lean opportunities. With regards to Gateway Haven, I'm happy to report that the phone system is now, the new phone system is up and running. The new nurse call system is up and running. The WanderGuard system has been momentarily paused because of a change in supplier, but we anticipate that that process will be completed this month, and at that time, all aspects, including the new PA system of the telecommunications changes in Gateway Haven, will be completed. With regards to enhanced peer support, our peer support team has trained recently with our colleagues in Gray to look for better ways to do the process, and processes or presentations are occurring at the long-term care homes to see if there's any synergy that we can have there to support our colleagues in that area. The Port Elgin Station the design is underway for a multi-service building, and the further discussions in that are ongoing. And that sort of brings me to the end of the Q2 report for the Department of Health Services.
Thank you for that. Mitchell?
The centralized scheduling, is it safe to assume we're still having issues with turnover at, in particular, the homes of employees? Because I know in Kelly's report, we're looking at an extra 700 hours in scheduling, and is that the crux of what our issues are?
For centralized scheduling, No, that would keep us busier in making phone calls, but there are a number of practices and processes that have been quite different from each home, and from how to ask for time off to book holidays and whatever, that we have to align. We've had to learn the current process at Gateway Haven, Bruce Lee Haven, and we're working towards bringing that in. So it's the biggest challenge we've got is making centralized scheduling one way of doing business for all of the three cultures. There is a lot of calls that need to be made due to staffing problems, and one finds that if we had the staff in position, that would not be as busy a piece of the work. But the business piece of centralized scheduling is getting that one way of doing business so we can do it in a very regular, transparent, and measurable way, which we couldn't do previously.
Any other questions or comments to share with Health Services? Seeing nothing at this time, then thank you very much for that.
Thank you, sir.
Keep up the good work.
Thank you, sir.
We're on to Human Services.
Thank you, Warden. Happy to present the Q2 business plan update for the Human Services Department. So beginning with the KPIs, you'll note that generally we're tracking well for the second quarter of the year, and there's really only a few changes to note from the first quarter, so I'll just focus on those. The average length of time that clients receive social assistance has increased from 26 months. Previously, at the last quarter, we were at 23 months of an average. Currently, we're now at 44% completion on the 10-year housing plan, which is, again, a 10-year project, and so we're on track with that project across the period of the 10 years. The number of business days from screening to financial eligibility decision has increased to 5 days from 4. So a little bit of backsliding there from the previous quarter. And we will see some fluctuations as staff continue to move into a maintenance process with those improved business practices. But they continue to put much effort into streamlining that and making it happen. The housing facility capital projects delivered on time and on budget. We're now reporting on 13 of 18 projects. And with the unplanned workload from the Mildmay flood fire and the Chesley fire, this of course has impacted the capital priorities. And so currently we're showing there a reduced impact at 84.6%. And as per the update, we have identified a few projects that we're making the decision to move to 2019 at this point. The percentage of the waiting list housed has decreased from 53% to 34%, significant change, and it would seem that that's a reflection of the timing of the move-outs. You'll likely recall that earlier this year we'd reported the move-outs were unusually high to date. And so if that levels out, we may find that we're actually close to the budget expectation by the end of the year. Of course, it's something we can't predict in terms of when tenants make decisions around move-outs. So I'll just pause there if there's any questions on the KPIs.
What was the reason for the move-outs? Like, found different housing, or what would prompt that?
So the reasons vary from tenant to tenant. The actual mix of reasons, we didn't see a change. It's just more fell in the beginning part of the year this year. So reasons for move out can be moving on to new living arrangements that they found for themselves. Sometimes they're moving to other areas to seek supports. With 60% of our units being seniors, unfortunately, sometimes it's people have died. So the attrition is with people moving on in that regard. So the actual reasons for people moving haven't changed. It just is that we had this unusual fluctuation with when it was happening during the year.
Carry on.
Okay. So moving on to the initiatives, the Service Delivery Hub feasibility review, as at Q2, the steering committee had completed the additional work based on the building and site condition assessment findings, and we'll be bringing forward information to committee in Q3 regarding that project. With regard to the communication strategy to engage stakeholders in the transformation of the early on or family support centers, site selection has been completed. In Q2, the new marketing approach has been in place and transformation is underway. Staff are regularly communicating with the various partners, and messaging for families will be launched in August of 2018, so that the final stage of transformation will take place this fall, and things are moving along nicely with that. The optimization of the OneList software application, as at Q2, is now complete. That work has all been carried out. The final technical changes are coming into effect this week. And we actually have a new parent how-to video available on the website now that was part of that project. So it engages with parents in a new way to help people understand that childcare waitlist system. The Special Needs Resource Program, they're working on enhancing their software application, and in Q2, the first and second phase of the customizations to the database were completed, and the next two phases will occur in the second half of 2018. With regard to the generation and development of housing stock, at Q2, approval was granted for the disposition of the 5 properties in Kincardine, and of course, we'll be moving forward with a new build to meet targets of increased accessibility, sustainability, and increase our number of units for that project. With regard to the housing and homelessness planning, at Q2, the homelessness enumeration was complete. The full report regarding enumeration will be coming forward in Q3, and of course, we'll base some of the movement that we have regarding our update to the 5-year update that we have to our long-term housing and homelessness plan that is due for June 2019. And so we will begin that consultation in Q3. The integrated housing system software update is moving forward, and we are expecting that it be released in 2018. And Q2 staff had some introductory training for that piece of software, which will actually modernize how we do some of the work with the nonprofits. The tenant satisfaction and engagement is planned for the later part of the year and hasn't started at this point, but on track to begin. And with social assistance modernization, as at Q2, we have successfully transitioned the new streamlined statement of income card, the updated discretionary benefit policy, and streamlined the transition of Ontario Works to old age security and Canada Pension, as well as we've aligned with the new risk-based intake approach. So lots of changes that have taken place to modernize in social assistance. With regard to the redesigned community participation program, that's where we place people in employment situations. We're having great uptake in that program. And we've already had 2 participants of that program gain employment from that experience. So it's a great program that allows for the mentorship to happen to help people move into permanent employment. And the rest are with regard to the capital projects, and the notes are there. So I'll pause there and ask if you have any questions.
All right. So through you, Mr. Warden, I'm happy to present the Q2 results for the museum. So starting off with our KPIs, all the KPIs are pretty much where we would expect and want them to be at this point of the timing for the report. I will just draw your attention to a couple of items. In regards to the costs per household, we are anticipating a slight increase this year due to the anticipated project work for the 1878 schoolhouse, once that funding comes through for that, and also due to the purchase of the property at the south end of the museum. Our memberships are remaining strong. We're still seeing that as a very good growth area for us. And in particular, our social media, we have already exceeded that target in Q1, so we fully expect this is a channel. These channels are really growing for us in terms of Facebook and Instagram as well. Our total number of visitors are exactly where we would expect them to be at the time of the report. So moving into our initiatives, we have 5 in total. The financial feasibility study, as council is aware, has already been completed and was presented to council at the end of Q4 in 2017. And we are progressing currently with the second stage and the cooperative project scoping with Bruce Power for the Innovation Centre. In regards to the museum strategic plan for developing the resources required, we have completed the recruitment, and many of you met our new development officer, Maria Canton, who started with us on June 4th, and she is well underway in planning all of the initiatives for fundraising as in this area of her development. The third item is in regards to, again, our strategic plan and forging partnerships and relationships, in particular with our educational advisory group. So the educational advisory group will be an ongoing initiative for us. Currently, there were no meetings held in Q2, and that was at the request of the members themselves. It's a busy time, you can imagine, with the teachers at that time. So the next meeting is scheduled to be in September 18th. However, during Q2, during the month of April, invitations were sent to members and municipalities that aren't currently being represented. So in particular, specifically for Erin Terra, Hillcrest, Hepworth, St. Anthony's, Chesley, and Ripley, they have been reached out to, and hopefully we will be able to see some new members coming on board in our September meetings. Recommendations, however, for the improvement on small fixes to the website have been completed in Q2, and input into the redesign of the 2019 website have also been communicated. And a teachers-only email contact group has been created and is currently in use. So work continues to happen in that area. In regards to our strategic plan for marketing, council is aware that we have completed the 3-year plan, and we're specifically working on the directions and the strategy for the countywide awareness over time, and also looking at the recommendations and the budget implications for our planning in 2019. The last item is in regards to the development work for the in-house exhibits for 2018. And those 2 exhibitions in particular is the First Nations exhibit, which is on schedule to be opened in November. So we are currently still doing lots of background work is happening, off-site dioramas and research, and the actual pods that we're calling the pods, the stations, if you will, are currently being created, and we will look to be starting the tear out of that gallery the last week in August and start the full implementation of that exhibition starting in September. So that work is well under progress. And obviously, for those of you who are at the train exhibit opening on July 11th, we did have a slight delay of about a month from when we had planned to open, but that exhibition is up and running as well. And I'd be happy to answer any questions about the Q2 report for the museum.
Any questions on the comments for the Q2 museum? Good, Janice. All's good. Excellent.
All right, thank you.
Library.
Good morning. I'm pleased to present my final update on the library business plan. The KPIs are tracking as expected. The only 2 that I will note is circulation of physical items. That is trending lower than what we had projected, and the circulation of online resources is projecting higher. So the trending downward of circulation of physical items is not unusual. That is the trend across the province. But we will be monitoring that, and the new director, Nicole, will be providing updates to the library board. And we're happy to see, as per the provincial trend, that our online resources and circulation of that is increasing. For our 3 major initiatives, the Bookmobile Phase 2, as of Q2, a working group is developing an awareness campaign to launch in September. Fundraising plans and a final budget model are near completion. As of Q2, the marketing strategy has been completed and presented to the library board. It will be circulated and posted on the library website in August, and that is a 2-year marketing strategy. The Mental Health and Wellness Phase 2 initiative, as of Q2, training for mental health first aid has been completed by all of the supervisory staff at the library, and further training for all staff on de-escalation is planned for October. And that is my update.
Any questions of Melissa's update on the library? That bookmobile's moving forward. So who is that, like mainly in-house staff have some design ideas, or what kind of concepts have you looked at them? I think that's very exciting.
It is an exciting project, and we're just in the phase where we're starting to get those ideas together. Near the end of the year, there'll be a better idea of what it might look like. We have sourced some vehicles, and we're just working on the final budget for that.
Good morning. I'm pleased to announce the Q2 update for the Planning and Development Department. I'll first sort of highlight the key performance indicators, all of which are trending to either meet or exceed our what we have as goals. And I don't think there's anything to report as being a concern. What is of note is that we are trending to exceed our business inquiries and consultations. We've got we're developing a really dynamic business development staff who've done a great job of outreaching to ensure that entrepreneurs who are starting or growing their businesses are aware of our services. Also of note is our Spruce to Bruce grants are up as well, and we've actually exceeded the leverage amount, which is also great. And then I'll get into our major initiatives. So as Kelly mentioned earlier, the corporate communications strategy is complete and was presented to council in July. Our land use planning transformation process is well underway with 4 strategic initiatives. Under the strategic umbrella, we have Bruce GPS, and that is moving along very quickly. The team has hired Lura Consulting to help them with an engagement plan. The plan is under review and is being planned to roll out very soon. And in fact, I'll draw your attention to the council session that is scheduled for August 9th next week. And then the public launch, the official kickoff for the Bruce GPS project will happen on August 15th at the Museum and Cultural Center. Under the process umbrella, we have the Lean Process Transformation and the Communications Guide. All of our team in the entire department, in fact, the planning and economic development team have all had their initial Lean training, which is really great. And the planning team is investigating a database which will house our applications and be able to really have a more user-friendly database that can sort and find applications for both in-house and also for our application clients. And then the economic impact of tourism is moving along smoothly. We're now in the quantitative phase of this project, which is actually surveying our visitors. And this is probably the most difficult. We want to get about 500 surveys completed. So we've got staff attending events throughout the county all summer. So you'll see them out and about. We hope to have the findings next quarter and then begin the analysis in Q4. The project Innovate is also, this project is moving along well, in fact is ahead of schedule. And in July, staff presented a report, Driving Innovation in Bruce County, which considered the framework for how we support innovation across the region. And we have the Business to Bruce community onboarding process also moving along. We are now in the phase of working with communities on their videos that will go on to the Business to Bruce site. We're doing photography with those communities, working on their matching criteria and their inserts for their pitched kits. And once all of that is completed, all of the communities will actually move into the implementation phase, which will include, each of them will actually have pitch kits, and then it will be up to the communities to decide on which tools they want to create and move forward with. And the plan is to begin with Paisley and Sauble in Q4, so in September. And then we had the nuclear investment strategy also moving along. Staff have identified action items for the next 6 months to support the integration of local suppliers into our communities. And one of the initiatives they're now working on is the new resident toolkit readiness worksheet. And I think that's it, if there are any questions.
Mitchell and Mike?
Initiative 4, you had mentioned the economic impact of tourism in Bruce County, that you're going to survey visitors.
Yes,
What about doing businesses?
we are.
You are?
Sorry, yes.
Okay.
We've already done that piece.
Okay.
Yes. Mhm.
Thank you.
Yep.
Mike and then Ann?
Thanks, Mr. Warden. I think it's just more of a comment, and I think we'll get an opportunity when we go through this GPS session, but when I look at the number of applications processed, 264 budgeted, I mean, that is a huge amount of work. And when I look at that, I say, we should be looking really critically at the documents that are forcing us into these applications and say, how many of these applications can we eliminate, amend the documents to drive those numbers down, because it's fair to the people that are making the applications, and it's a lot better for our staff here. So, it's just a comment, and you will hear it from me again when we go through that GPS, but I think it's worthwhile looking at those numbers. It tells you there's a lot of activity in our communities, but it also says we're putting up a lot of what I would say almost maybe perhaps unnecessary bureaucracy.
Through you, Mr. Warden. It's one of the great things about Lean, that Lean has taught us, is really to focus on the client. And so now that our staff are trained in those initial 2 workshops through Lean, that's exactly what we're identifying and looking for. So it's, do we have unnecessary steps in the process? Are our templates correct, and that sort of thing? So that's already underway. The other thing that has come about already through this process is that the real key to working with our planning clients is really in that knowledge and explaining, in that inquiry phase is really very important as well. So, yes, we are looking at those for sure.
Ann? Then Milt?
So you're talking about the economic impact of tourism and how you have staff out at different events in the county and surveying people. So I know, and I haven't talked to some of our event people in our municipality this year about it, but other years they have done their own surveys. So do you merge their data at all? I'm assuming you do.
Yes, we've reached out. Anybody who's collecting data already, we've actually reached out to. We just had a conference call this week with Ipsos, who has been acquired to help us with this study. And they said that everybody they've talked to is actually willing to share data, which is unusual, so.
Oh, good,
Yes.
because I know in the past, our Scottish Festival and our Blues Festival have done surveys as well. And of course, the volunteers and the executives change, so sometimes
Yes.
it maybe doesn't follow through year to year, or maybe they don't do it every year, so, no, that's good.
A carry on from Mike's point, and the fact that, and I think not the template so much maybe, but to Mike's point, what is causing what's the reason for all of the applications for amendments or whatever it is, and to see if we can, during the process, eliminate that.
And so, again, through Lean, what it's taught us how to do is really make our work visible, so we can actually see it and see where there might be, a glitch in the system or something that's not needed, something we've always done because we've always done it, and how can we eliminate those steps that don't make sense.
Mm-hmm. That too, yes.
In those numbers, I agree with what Mike is saying there, but in those numbers, would that even catch the minor variances? Because the county doesn't deal with that. Would all the minor variances be on top of that then, Mike? The minor variances are dealt with at the local level? And not in Aaron Eldersley's case, I guess. Aaron Eldersley, would that number be in there? I'm not. Go ahead, Mike, yeah.
I suspect it is. It's all applications, and the county does all the circulations for those minor variances, so I suspect.
Oh, okay.
But again, like minor variances, I mean, they're a result of minor changes to one of your planning documents, and if you've got a whole bunch of them, you're saying your planning document should be changed. You should not be forcing people through that process.
Well, that's what I agree with you 100%. I think folks who are building bigger homes and want a 4-foot setback instead of a 5, it won't fit on, and we do spend a lot of money and time at the end of proving that. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Anything else on the planning and development department? Kelly, you look like you have a...
Just through you, Mr. Warden, I would like to congratulate Jill. She's sat in on behalf of Director Kara and has fielded a great many questions extremely well. So it was a great presentation.
Thank you.
I was going to say that, but I don't have to.
You can if you want.
Go ahead, Michael.
Okay.
I lost my spot here too, so I'm just looking on there.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Warden. For our indicators, a lot of them it says NA for second quarter. It's because we calculate usually the information over the whole year and we average it over the distance of kilometers, or in the case of road conditions, well, they don't improve till we actually do the work, which we're doing now. So at quarter 3, we should be able to have more better input. But we are proceeding with our road program and our bridge and culvert program to improve the good rating. We are, and as far as continuing the cost to maintain 1 lane kilometer in the winter, same thing. We still have for this year, a little bit of winter left, so we don't have those costs yet. A year remaining of county landfill site capacity. I spoke with Kerry. We're still waiting for a report from our consultant to calculate the capacities. And then the tons of material diverted from landfill, again, we don't have the information yet. There's a time lag between the time that it happens and we get it. So hopefully next quarter we'll have some numbers there to improve, to to show. Major initiatives, implement new organizational structure. The Trails and Forestry team have been moved to Transportation and Environmental Services. They've been integrated in our processes. We're very close to make an announcement about the engineering manager being hired, so we're close to the end of the process. And once the engineering manager's in place, we'll be able to reorganize some of the duties between for the new engineering manager and what he's going to do and what the other people are going to give to him to do. Implement lean processing and flow. We've completed some more training, so now I have a core of people trained, so we'll be able to start looking at some of the processes to review. Environmental assessment of West Road. We did get the technical report on water flow and surface water flows and quantities. We're reviewing it right now. Once the review is done, we'll be able to see what the next steps are. We are in progress for the paved road capital program. There's it doesn't appear to be any major delays at this point in time. Bridge and culvert capital program, a couple of projects, bridge projects are producing some challenges, but we seem to be able to mitigate them and keep going. So we're on. Looks like we're going to do the program as planned. We did add the Chesley Bridge, but we took out the Starks Bridge. However, we're still going to do the engineering for the Starks Bridge so we can implement the rehabilitation next year. And the study, the feasibility study for a collection depot for hazardous and special waste. The person that would work on that on my staff right now is been kind of directed to work on bridge projects and the bridge program and redirected to other things. There's also some uncertainty there on regulations, where the regulations are going for this type of facility. So there was supposed to be some new legislation with the new government. Now we're not sure where that's going to go. Thank you. So that's it for, if you have any questions.
Well, maybe the first of the year we'll have more questions when you got more information for us, depending how the winter goes here and stuff, eh?
I'll be ready.
Yeah,
Thank you,
you'll be
Mr.
ready, yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Warden.
Attaboy.
Through you, Mr. Warden, the next item up is the Ontario Nuclear Innovation Institute Public Engagement Summary. And through you, Mr. Warden, we'll have Matt Mead will make a presentation, the research analyst in the Office of the CAO, and we're very blessed as well that Frank Saunders from Bruce Power is here to also make comments and answer any questions. And in between the two, sitting with them is Stellina Williams, of course, who will also add additional information if you have any questions. So through you, I wasn't going to go through the report in detail that is on the agenda. I thought you'd probably prefer to hear from both Matt and Frank, and then we can entertain any questions if you wish.
Yeah, okay. You're gonna, Stellina, you're going first. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm just going to go through the first few slides, and then Matt will talk about the feedback received through the community engagement sessions. So just for background, on May 16th, as you know, Bruce Power and Bruce County announced a new partnership to establish an Ontario's Nuclear Innovation Institute. And at that time, it was also announced that the location of choice was on the property beside the museum, the current Bruce County Museum and Cultural Center, aligning the museum expansion with the establishment of the Institute. And so in order to determine if this was in fact the most suitable location, local dialogue with the community of Saugeen Shores, specifically Southampton, began to discuss this option and gather neighborhood feedback to help inform the development process. And the goal of the sessions was really to ensure that feedback was captured and incorporated very early in the process and used throughout the development stage as we move forward on defining the institute in more detail. And we recognized that when we went out to the neighborhood information sessions, that it was very early, and we probably didn't have all the answers that people were looking for, but that was the intent of it, was to really surface and understand what concerns might be going forward as we developed the function and the design and other logistics around the institute. And so in terms of what we did, 2 neighborhood information drop-in sessions have been held, one on June 12th and one on July 5th, both at the museum, and one more planned for the fall. In terms of outreach or invitations, formal letters and invitations were emailed to the chiefs of the Saugeen Ojibwe Nation and the Chippewas of Nawash Unceded First Nation, as well as to the Council of the Town of Saugeen Shores. Invitations were emailed to both BIAs, Saugeen Shores Chamber of Commerce, GC Houston Public School, the Historic Saugeen Métis, the Indigenous Economic Development Officers, the 2 school boards, the 3 neighboring churches, as well as the Southampton Craft Show. So in addition to that, all residents of Southampton and Saugeen First Nation were mailed an invitation through Canada Post. So, and then I know through the museum kind of outreach, information about the sessions was also done through the website and social media. And so we tried to make sure that we got the message out to as many groups and residents as possible about these sessions. The events were successful in facilitating discussion and identifying concerns. 32 people attended the first session, which was an informal kind of meet and greet with participation from both Bruce Power and Bruce County. 55 people attended the second session, where a formal presentation was provided, followed by a question and answer period. So in total, 82 different people attended at least one of the sessions. 5 people attended both. We received 19 feedback forms and 22 feedback emails. And so the feedback is really the basis of the report back that Matt will provide. Just a couple of points of clarification before we move to the feedback. Despite our best efforts, I know that when we launched the initiative or the institute, we didn't really have all the answers, but we did find that over the neighborhood information sessions that there was a number of kind of inaccuracies or misinterpretations about what this institute is and what it isn't. And so we thought that we would take the opportunity to really clarify some of those pieces. So a couple of important points is the institute will not house radioactive laboratories or materials, so it will not be a CNSC licensed facility. It will not house medical or clinical laboratories. It will not be an industrial site. And it will not have any influence over the museum's operations or exhibits. And in terms of what it will do, it will be a research institute focused on collaboration and learning. It will be respectful of Fairy Lake's natural setting. It will have a low number of users and visitors on a regular basis. Although we're still determining that, I mean, you might not be looking at more than 40 to 50 people for meetings and events and things like that. The expectation is that the height will be in line with kind of the current surroundings and landscapes, maybe between 3 or 4 stories. And although we continue to explore the size of the dimensions, given the current footprint of available space, I mean, it's unlikely the building will exceed 30,000 square feet. And the museum expansion will continue to be respected as already agreed to and approved. In addition, as this is a partnership between Bruce Power and Bruce County, a collaborative capital campaign will be planned for the collective vision of both the museum expansion and the institute, which will target multiple sources, including government, industry, and academia. And I'll now pass it on to Matt to talk about what we heard.
Great, thanks, Delina. Good morning, everyone. So what we heard, we heard the community's feedback on a number of topics. There's a summary at the end of the report in Appendix A that outlines all the comments that we heard. And so in reviewing the feedback that we received, we began to see some themes emerging. And so we use these themes to help us organize all of the feedback across a number of categories to help us organize it. And so I've got them up here on the screen. There are 6 categories that all of the feedback fits into. I'll start this morning with a brief explanation of each of the categories, and then as well a couple of examples of the kind of comments that were included in each of those. So the first feedback category is access and availability of information. And so we heard from the community a desire for more project details and to make information readily available. And so some examples of things we heard under this category would be, when's your next meeting? Where can I find the resources and the information that you're using tonight? What's the project timelines, the cost, the scope, kind of operational details, and the content, not only of the Institute, but also for the archive. And so those are some examples under that category. The second category is building design details. And so there was we heard there was a desire to review and have input on conceptual architectural drawings and some options that folks might look at. And so some of the comments that we heard under this category would be, what kind of building materials would you use? What's the built form of what you're planning? Will there be increased noise? Those kinds of things. The third category is the museum expansion and archive, as well as some alternative locations. And so we heard a desire for details on how the museum expansion fits into the overall vision of a campus-style community hub. And some examples would be, what's public access going to be like? What are the expansion opportunities? The benefits and challenges with sharing facilities, and as well a desire to uphold the neutrality of the museum. On the other side of that is suggestions for alternative locations for consideration. And so we heard things like it would be better in Port Elgin, in Kincardine, in an industrial park, on the north side of the property, the CAW Conference Center, the Southampton Market, and away from downtown or away from J.C. Houston Public School were some of the things that we heard. So the fourth feedback category is the preservation of heritage. And so we heard a desire to preserve Southampton's heritage, principally the existing house on the property. The fifth category is in relation to parking and traffic and the need to appropriately address any increased parking and traffic demands, especially in relation to the impact that increased traffic may have on students traveling to and from J.C. Houston Public School. So the last category is aesthetics. And so we heard a desire to maintain the neighborhood aesthetics. And some of the examples that we heard were a wall of buildings is unappealing, that we should try to enhance and take advantage of the natural setting around Fairy Lake. A tree preservation, or try to retain as many trees as possible, or increase and add green space. So those are kind of some of the things we heard under that category. And so with this feedback, we took the opportunity to do a little bit of a statistical analysis. And so overall, looking at the feedback we received, the frequency of comments was fairly evenly distributed across the different feedback categories. And so with the access to information being the most frequent at 24%, being separated by only 14% from the least common comments we received, being parking and traffic, as well as aesthetics, both at 10%. And so in that spectrum there, we have building design details at 22%, archive location at 19%, and preservation of heritage at 15%. And so once we categorized them, we assigned a rating across a 5-point scale from unsupportive, fully unsupportive, all the way up to fully supportive. And so of all the comments we received, most were rated as neutral in tone, so about 51%. 31% were on the positive side of that spectrum, so the categories of supportive at 9%, as well as supportive with concern at 22%. And 18% of the feedback we received were on the negative side of that spectrum, so 1% fully unsupportive and 17% unsupportive with concern. I think the key take-home, though, for me, is that the majority of the comments that we received, so 99%, provided insightful feedback, as well as the opportunity to try to mitigate any concerns and include any ideas or thoughts or suggestions from the community in our development and design process going forward. So I think that's a really good sign. And so these next set of slides will talk to that. So the mitigation opportunity that is possible thanks to the feedback, the public engagement efforts that we've undertaken. So first is the access and availability of information. So in general, attendees were very appreciative of the opportunity to provide feedback at the neighborhood drop-in sessions, as well as at their convenience via email. However, as Stelina pointed out, many were still looking for detailed information and detailed project information. So we are working with two consultants, both Mars and Deloitte, to help us determine exactly these kinds of details. So a business plan, our operational model, our governance structure, financing, conceptual drawings, parking and traffic reports, those kinds of things. And so once they're complete, the results and options for consideration will be made available and presented at our next public neighborhood drop-in session planned for this fall. In the interim, all the public engagement resources that we've developed, so the May 16th media release, the poster boards that we used at the first neighborhood drop-in session, the presentation that we used at the second neighborhood drop-in session, all of those resources have been distributed electronically to all who have attended or submitted feedback. Additionally, the Institute is working to develop a website, and all available information will be accessible here. Lastly, we've also requested a delegation at the Saugeen Shores Council on August 27th to present the results of our public engagement efforts thus far. And so moving on to category 2, opportunity 2 is in relation to building design details. And so a high-level description of our concept for the Institute was presented at both sessions. However, the desire to review and provide input on conceptual architectural drawings still remains. And so we are working with an architectural firm, Reich and Petch Architects, to develop conceptual drawings for the Institute. And so the planned approach would be to present a number of options for review and input at the next neighborhood drop-in session this fall. And so the third opportunity is around the museum expansion and alternative locations. And so the expansion of the archive continues to be an important part of this project and is included in the overall vision of a campus-style community hub that incorporates the Institute into the landscape. The same architectural firm has developed floor plan layouts for the museum expansion, and the preferred option, which was the result of a previous public consultation, was presented to residents during the July 5th neighborhood drop-in session, and the floor plan option that was presented is supported. As noted in the May 16th media release, and also reiterated at both sessions, the Institute will be established in Southampton. The location of choice is adjacent to the Bruce County Museum and Cultural Center. A local dialogue with neighbors and the community is and has been occurring around this or potentially other options within Southampton. So the fourth opportunity for mitigation is around the preservation of heritage. And so in order to accomplish our vision of a campus-style community hub, the existing house will likely need to be removed. The opportunity to incorporate features from the house, so things like the facade, the brickwork, windows, pocket doors, incorporating those into any new build represents a suitable compromise that is supported by most. So our fifth opportunity is in relation to parking and traffic. And so our goal is in assessing and addressing any potential increased parking demands and traffic created by our proposal is to work towards a complete street as defined in the Grey Bruce Public Health Complete Streets Policy and Implementation Guideline. So a complete street is designed for all ages, abilities, and modes of travel where safe and comfortable access for pedestrians, cyclists, transit users, and people with disabilities is integrated into the transportation planning. So preliminary outreach to the town of Saugeen Shores has occurred with the hope of collaborating and coordinating our approach into the town's transportation master plan. Working with the town and/or transportation consultants, the planned approach is to present any resulting findings, recommendations, and approaches, including traffic calming methods and measures to reduce risks to all road users for review and input at the next neighborhood drop-in session this fall. So last is aesthetics. So comments across this spectrum within this category requested that the new build be in keeping with the existing built form of the museum and try to incorporate and enhance the idyllic setting of Fairy Lake. And so this is our intention. As I mentioned, we're planning to develop some architectural conceptual drawings that we will share with the public at the next neighborhood drop-in session. So that's the end of my report. Thank you all very much.
Very interesting report. I really enjoyed your PowerPoint today. It's certainly cleared up a few things. It's put it in print. People can see it. There it is. I think I heard you mention that the website isn't quite up and running, but the sooner that can happen, the better. I think people will be more informed, and I'm happy to hear you're going to Saugeen Shores late in August, and so very informative presentation, folks. I'm sure Ann has several questions. Nothing today? Oh, come on, Ann.
It was such a great presentation. All my questions are answered.
Thanks, Mr. Warden. I attended the second meeting, and I really want to commend the people that made the presentations there, because there's a lot of questions that you're at the stage. I think a lot of people expected a lot more that night, and you're going about it the right way. You're getting the input, and then I think when you go back in the fall, when you get some concept, it's going to be much more interesting for the people, because they had lots of questions and lots of misconceptions too. When you walked around the room, there was people that said, "Oh, I heard it's going to be 10 and 12 and 15, and all kinds of things." And you really presented the information well for the people, and it's going to be an exciting project. I can tell you, there's a lot of interest and excitement in the community as you go around about this project.
I think the conceptual drawings that show the Institute and how it fits on that lot, I think that's the most important. That's what people are waiting to see. I think that's where the main interest is, in how you're dealing with parking. It's the house, the parking, and the building. It's clearly, once we can. So on this set of drawings that we have was in the presentation, that's just the archives. Could I ask Kathy? So it's those drawings have existed for a while. They come from a consultant some time ago. Just a question that for me. So the area at the front that's archival storage in red on ground floor and second floor, and the red area kind of overlaps or mirrors the ground floor. Is that a two-level, or is that red area actually then wide open? It's 2 stories high with no floor in there. You know what I'm trying to ask? Thank you. That's good. You do.
So you're correct. The perception of this, or the plans for this current layout, is that the archives would be on the bottom level with the existing collection, if you will, all on the bottom level with expansion up to the top, the second floor. So the second floor, where you see the community voices space, the classroom space, the reception area, that's the area to expand in there. The one thing that we still have to have further discussions about for the storage capacity is whether it is best to do it open as it is currently in the 3D collection storage, or whether we would do it as 2 separate levels. So that's still under consideration, but the important part about it is the square footage that would be required to have the longevity for the archival expansion and the collection, the growth of the collection.
So the answer to my question is you're not sure at this time whether it's a floor in there, or we're just storing it by mass racking and...
Yeah, so that still has to be determined for sure.
Okay, thank you for now. Stay posted. Any other questions of the report today? excellent report, and so your next plan is to do the website, and then off to Saugeen Shores, and then, and you have another public meeting scheduled for back at the museum, and...
Yeah, precisely. So once we've got a bit more detail to share, we will do that. And so there's a plan for a fall neighborhood drop-in session to share those details, as well as the Saugeen Shore Council meeting August 27th, and a website as soon as it becomes available. We'll start posting and getting the word out on that.
So the next public meeting, do you have a date? Is that date established or set for back at the museum with the public meeting?
It's not firm, but September-ish.
September-ish.
Mm-hmm.
That's, okay, that's not good enough for now, yeah. Okay, anything else? Any other questions, comments? Good work, folks. Thanks for coming today. If you've got time to stick around, we're going to have lunch here half an hour or so. Anything else on that then, Kelly, or?
No, through you, Mr. Warden. No.
Thank you.
So was that the public engagement presentation? What's the next piece of business for today?
Through you, Mr. Warden, the proposed 2019 corporate initiatives for committee's consideration. It was circulated prior, and I can answer any questions. If there is something that's missing that committee would like to add, it would be helpful to get general support today. There is a draft resolution so that the balance of the team can then start to put together their 2019 annual business plans using the corporate initiatives as the guidepost.
So that's on the screen. Does everyone have, to that page? I've lost it here, but I'm looking on here, so I've...
So through you, Mr. Warden, the recommendation is that we have three, one being the second generation for the mental wellness program, and that continues to, the recommendation is that you continue to support its evolution, that we wish to enhance the Lunch and Learn program across the organization, to continue the programming throughout the year. The first aid training that Director Legacy had highlighted that was completed in the library this past year, the library system. We would like to be able to take that and roll it out across the organization, because we do training on physical first aid, and it makes a whole lot of sense to do training regarding mental wellness first aid. The second initiative is, as committee are aware, there is a plan in relation to the lean transformation. I'm confident that all of you are seeing the benefit of that investment, and the goal is to ask you to support us to take it to, get it to a phase 1 stage, which is that the foundation for it to continue to evolve and build, that we would spend next year doing that. In particular, our long-term care facilities and the physicality of the work that particularly the personal support workers are faced with every day is an area of extreme concern, not only for myself, but for Director McKeag. And so that would be a core focus for next year. And then, of course, the third item is the next stage for the Ontario Nuclear Institute and Innovation Centre for Bruce County. We've done a lot of really good outreach, including this week we visited 2 facilities in the Kitchener-Waterloo area, the Perimeter Institute as well as Communitech, and we've been able to glean a lot of information now that we've visited the Byward Yards in Ottawa, we visited Mars, and then, as I say, the 2 this week. And we believe we have enough that we can now bring forward to you a solid governance structure that will meet with your expectations and take it to the next step.
Thank you, Kelly. So I'll read the recommendation that the Executive Committee support the 3 2019 corporate initiatives of mental wellness, second generation, lean transformation from Phase 0 to Phase 1, and the Ontario Nuclear Institute as presented. Have a mover, moved by Mike, second by Ann. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor of the motion? And that's carried. Thank you.
So through you, Mr. Warden, we're now at a point where if you'll entertain recessing and moving into other committees until 1 o'clock, if committee would consider that, and then we can move on to the other business between now and 1.
Before we recess, we need a motion from the floor that in accordance with the procedural bylaw, staff be authorized and directed to give effective to the actions of the Executive Committee in respect to all resolutions passed during the August 2nd, 2018 meeting. And we... Mover and a seconder? Moved by Ann, seconded by Robert. Did we vote on that? Apparently. All those in favor? That's carried. So we're going to go into recess then, and we'll come back to executive at 1 p.m. You want a motion for that, to go to recess? Or is that what you told me?
Through you, Mr. Warden, yes, please.
Moved by Mike, second by Dave, that we recess the executive committee and reconvene at 1 p.m. All those in favor of the motion? Fine, we're convened. So next up, Donna. Good morning, everyone. I'd like to call the Bruce County Corporate Services Committee to order for this Thursday, August the 2nd. We'd like to welcome everyone that's live streaming perhaps. And first thing on the agenda then is the declaration. Need to remind everyone it's our own responsibility to close any pecuniary interest that you may have on today's agenda. And on to action items 2A, generator inspection and compliance. Betty Ann.
Yes, good morning, and thank you, Mr. Warden. This is a recommendation that is through our environmental services manager here for the Park Street and Kelly Street facility. I believe the background has given you the information required, and the recommendation is to proceed with the upgrades to both generators and to be financed from the Kelly Street and Park Street building reserves.
The recommendation. Push the red button. That the expenditures required to complete the necessary repairs and upgrades to the Cayley Street and Park Street generators, estimated at approximately $30,000, plus HSTB finance from the Cayley Street and Park Street building reserves in 2018 be approved. Was that moved by Dave? Seconded by Ann? Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor of the motion? And that's approved. Thank you. Carry on, Betty Ann, please.
Thank you. The next items are information items. The first one is the forecasted reserves, and you'll recall annually that we prepare this for you so that you have it in advance of budget deliberations and to support our directors as they prepare their budgets. And I think the information has been provided, and we did highlight for you the balances. So we wanted to identify the beginning balance, the reserve balance, and what we were forecasting. And you will, as highlighted in the report, a number of the pressures that we have had on the reserves and what is impacting the year-end balance significantly. And it's as a result of a number of initiatives moving forward in 2018 where the reserves had been raised and were available for use. The other, the other information item is in regards to the Ontario regulation, and you'll see from it that it's a continuation. It was expected that it would be reviewed in 2012, and the province is still has it under review, so we continue to be regulated under the 284/09, and just bringing to your attention that the operating budget will be developed excluding the amortization and any current year's post-employment benefit expenses for early retirement. And the final one is information report is returned from the July session, where I had been asked what did it really mean for us as far as the municipal disaster recovery assistance, and this report is in response to that request and identifying, making 4 different assumptions on what we might be for eligible costs and what that would mean is for the county share, and hopefully it was self-explanatory and helpful for you to understand what we may be eligible to receive. I'd be happy to answer any questions on the information items.
Questions of Betty Ann on any of the information items? What's next, Betty Ann? Oh, I'm sorry, David, or Robert, I'm sorry.
I just have a quick question. That OCIF top-up funding, we'll hear about whether we get, if we do it, like we have applied for that.
The application is due at the end of this month.
At the end of this month.
At the end of this month, and from what we understand from the ministry is that before we would hear on the MDRA application, they will be evaluating the OCIF top-up application as well. And based on the current information, the county could be eligible for up to just around $900,000 on the OCIF top-up.
So
but we won't hear from that until probably Q4, because the deadline isn't until August 28th for all applications to be submitted.
Okay, very well, thank you.
Anything else? So, we got a number 5 action, we just did that.
We will require the motion, I believe, for the act on recommendations.
Moved by Mitch, seconded by Milt, that in accordance with the procedural bylaw, staff be authorized and directed to give effect to the actions of the Corporate Services Committee in respect to all resolutions passed during the August 2nd, 2018 meeting. All those in favor of that motion? And that's carried. Our next meeting then is September the 6th, 2018. And hearing nothing else this time, I look for a motion to adjourn. Moved by Ann, second by Robert. Any discussion? We're adjourned. Thank you. So we're back to live streaming. Welcome everyone. This is the Executive Committee of Bruce County Council back live streaming on August the 2nd. We were meeting this morning. We had to went into recess till 1 o'clock, so it's 1 o'clock. We're back in session, and again, I should maybe remind everyone it's our own responsibility to close any pecuniary interest you may have onto this afternoon's agenda. But the next item is actually a motion that the committee move into a closed meeting pursuant to section 239(2)E of the Municipal Act for litigation and potential litigation, including matters before administration tribunals affecting the municipality, discuss the land claim in the section 239(2)C of the Municipal Act related to a proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality or local board. Have a mover for that motion. Moved by Ann, seconded by Mitch. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor of the motion? We're in closed session. Thank you.